sports. It's in the game.
Second jewel in the Formula 1 crown, and some things never change. We're at the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps, and it's wet. Oh boy, well, we are in for a fascinating round 12 of the F1 World Championship in 2021. And there has been no changes to the circuit. There's going to be no DRS for at least the beginning of this race. 4.3 miles, 19 corners, and probably very close to the longest lap on the Formula 1 calendar. And that will certainly feel like the case as we begin under the wet conditions, in very similar circumstances to a certain race in 1998, which ended in a famous win for Damon Hill in the Jordan team. Things are very different since then, and despite that kind of inevitability may be happening, we will be starting in standard conditions. This could be very interesting. Well, taking a look at the grid, Valtteri Bottas gets another pole position as his surge continues. Max Verstappen alongside him on the front row. Plenty of the Max Legion are here today. Lewis Hamilton third alongside Sergio Perez, and F1 by Lando Norris, and a fantastic qualifying for Fernando Alonso up in P6. Lance Stroll is 7th alongside Carlos Sainz. I think that's Lance Stroll's best start of the season. And you can probably guess a plethora of grid penalties are coming. Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi crucially complete the top 10, but Sebastian Vettel is alongside Aiden Jackson, who starts 12th. Charles Leclerc took a grid penalty, is down to 13th alongside George Russell. Mick Schumacher up into 15th position ahead of Esteban Ocon. And looking at the final two rows of the grid, Yuki Tsunoda was demoted due to a grid penalty, so he alongside Nicolas Latifi. At the back of the grid, it's the most bizarre duo in Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly. So we can probably expect a lot of overtaking from those two in particular. Well, what an absolutely topsy-turvy grid this is. And the big flashpoint is the Alfa Romeos of Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi in 9th and 10th. This could be a crucial race for them as they are sitting level on points with Williams, but ahead of them on positional countback, better finishes basically. But they are behind HAAS by a couple of points, thanks to Aiden Jackson's 2 in France and 1 in Silverstone. So if Alfa Romeo can get a double points finish here, that would put them ahead of HAAS. Aiden Jackson, this could be one of the most crucial starts of his career so far, because he lines up 12th following a plethora of grid penalties. The bad news is the grid penalties include the likes of Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly, who are going to be 3 cars that Aiden Jackson will be thinking about during the duration of this race. He will fight them hard as he normally does, but it is going to be quite the task for Aiden if he can't get up ahead of the Alfa Romeos. This is a crucial weekend for them, a weekend to get ahead finally in the standings. They have lost out since Jackson's 2 points in HAAS. They only have 1 point from Antonio Giovinazzi earlier this season, and this could be a crucial moment for those two to finally gain some points this season, putting them ahead of Alfa Romeo. It also could be a very interesting weekend for Williams. Anything can happen in these conditions. George Russell sitting in 14th. This could be a very interesting Grand Prix, and it could shape the rest of the season as far as the constructors' standings towards the bottom are concerned. But it is also a fight at the front. Max Verstappen getting ahead of Lewis Hamilton crucially in qualifying, but Valtteri Bottas is the man leading the championship. And I believe that Bottas will have the inside line going into La Source. But as I said earlier, we are going to have a standing start. It's going to be the standard procedure. We will not be starting under the safety car, despite the conditions. We have been, it has been agreed to race. Now, looking at it from this point, it doesn't look too bad. Visibility isn't absolute zero. No reportings from the drivers, and the rain will be easing rather quickly, we're hearing, and we could even have a dry end to the race, so that could make things interesting as well. Spa-Francorchamps, one of the famed circuits on the calendar, considered the second jewel in the crown of Formula 1, and it always brings out an absolute tasty race, and I think we're up for one today, and it really pretty much could decide the championship if Bottas has his way once again. We're about to find out. 5 red lights ahead of the drivers, green flag at the back, and Spa-Francorchamps round 12. Lights out, and away we go, and Valtteri Bottas is a great start. Lewis Hamilton is down the inside of Max Verstappen already. It looks like Max is bogged down. Is Hamilton going to get there? Yes, he is, I think. Hamilton's going to get ahead of Bottas and Verstappen, and that's crucial. Mercedes already taking a 1-2 into La Source. They're going to be side by side going to Eau Rouge. Are we going to see Alonso and Webber going to Eau Rouge? We're not, because Max Verstappen thinks about it and pulls out of that one. So yeah, we're not going to see that going into Eau Rouge on this corner. We've had obviously a very tragic incident there as well, with the sad passing of Antoine Hubert a couple of years ago. Down towards the bottom of the pack, looks like it's all status quo. Carlos Sainz is down the inside of Fernando Alonso, and I think that's going to be a move that puts him ahead. Mick Schumacher is showing us 12th. Where on earth did he come from? Mick Schumacher's 12th, but not only that, Jackson is 13th. So the HAAS boys have ended up nose to tail on the grid there. Mick Schumacher with an absolutely storming first corner in the HAAS. It's not only Aiden Jackson can make those kind of starts. Schumacher has passed Charles Leclerc. He has passed George Russell. He's passed Nicholas Latifi. There is Pierre Gasly. He's going slowly. Looks like he might have some damage from that, and maybe that's what Schumacher benefited from. Although Pierre Gasly was at the back of the grid. So how has Gasly got that damage? That's going to be interesting to see on the replays later. Valtteri Bottas already going up to almost a second lead over Lewis Hamilton, as once again Hamilton just doesn't seem to have the answer for his teammates' pace. And it'll be interesting to see when we switch to the intermediate tyres, because it will dry out towards the end, we're hearing. It could be even a dry race and the sun could be out. But it's a short distance race here at Spa, but it is the longest lap on the calendar to compensate for it. Sebastian Vettel in 11th is interesting. The Alfa Romeos have stayed in the points in 9th and 10th, and that could be crucial with both HAAS cars outside the points, and Schumacher trying to keep with Sebastian Vettel. I wonder if there's going to be some talk of maybe Vettel will make it a little easier for Schumacher than normal. But anyway, here's the start from Bottas. Absolutely does the right thing, going straight to the racing line at Eau Rouge. Hamilton is the one who benefits from it the most, and gets down the inside of Max Verstappen. And that's going to make the fans in the stands very happy. And, well, they've had a bit of a dismal year, the Max Legion, with plenty of retirements for Max Verstappen. And he's only won one race, which was the Austrian Grand Prix, a couple of rounds back. Let's have a look at the start here from Mick Schumacher, because his start, it wasn't great, to be fair. Schumacher getting a lot of wheel spin, having to correct the car, but then just absolutely does a Jackson signature dive bomb down the inside, and he took Jackson with him on that one, or not quite actually. Jackson defended the position, and well, I wonder if that was a choreographed move. I may look like it. Jackson making it very easy for Schumacher on that one, but of course he knows that Mick Schumacher has his dad's genes in the wet. He's not really been able to showcase it so much. So this is Pierre Gasly from the back of the grid then. Why was he showing as last? He outbroke himself and hit Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. So that might be a rear wing damage for Ricciardo. We'll have to see if he pits as well. But Gasly certainly came off the worst in that one, and he's dropped to the back of the field as lap 2 is well underway. And Jackson is already battling with Ricciardo, it looks like, because Jackson's repassed him. So there was a battle there we missed. But yes, Mick Schumacher definitely taking lessons from Aiden Jackson. And this has been a track where Schumacher's performed very admirably, and Mick is from that same pool. He won his first ever Formula 2 race in the 2019, was it the 2019 or 2020 season? But he won. Or was it the 2018 season actually? It might have been the 2018 season. Obviously, the 2019 sprint race didn't go ahead, obviously. So I think it was the 2018 sprint race that Schumacher won. No, that was Hungary. But he did win in F3. He won in F3 Euro, didn't he? That was where Schumacher had won I think he won 2 of the 3 races at Spa. So Mick definitely knows his way around here. And he definitely had some decent results in Formula 2 last year. He finished on the podium, I think, twice. As Daniel Ricciardo and Aiden Jackson are side by side. And Aiden Jackson, well, he's proven to be quite a decent driver in the wet. He did really well at Silverstone, didn't he? And the HAAS really does look like it's a good car in the wet, doesn't it? With Schumacher in 13th right now, or 12th, my apologies, and Jackson in 13th. So the HAAS car is a really good car in the wet, and because of the hindrance to the power, where it's not such a big factor in these conditions, the HAAS drivers will have a much easier time holding position, and I believe Schumacher, because of that, is actually able to hold on to 12 quite comfortably, and Jackson is going to act as his rear gunner by the looks of it. Because Schumacher's definitely got the legs of Jackson. They're about, I think, 8 tenths apart, according to the timer. So meanwhile then, at the front, it's pretty much all settled down. The only real mover was Carlos Sainz up 1 place to 6th, ahead of Alonso. I think Hamilton was obviously the other winner as well, getting down the inside of Max Verstappen into La Source. And now he's in 2nd place, but he really needs to start winning the races now, Lewis Hamilton, because he is falling behind in the Drivers' Championship, and this really calls into question the future of Mercedes. What will they do in terms of their driver lineup? We were all expecting them to announce Russell this season, but I wonder if that'll be held off until the end of the season. There might be another twist in the tail for there, especially considering the fact that Bottas is doing the championship right now, and the most crucial positions here. Kimi Raikkonen 9th, Antonio Giovinazzi 10th. That would be 3 points. Add that to the one that Giovinazzi already owns, and that'll be 5 points in the Constructors' Championship. Let me get on that. 2, 3, 4 Constructors' points, my apologies, and then we'll put them ahead of HAAS, who currently have 3, thanks to Aiden Jackson. And both HAASes are non-scorers at the very moment, at least. And is the track drying out, I wonder?
Guys, I have a feeling we're not going to be too far from the intermediates. What's Mick's thinking? Mick is coming in at the end of his lap to put the inters on, Aiden. We can double stack you if you want. No, give him the priority. He's quicker than me. I know this might ruin my own race, but it's worth it if Mick can get a point or 2. Prioritise him, and we'll deal with it as it comes. Okay, Aiden, it's your call, buddy.
Aiden Jackson is making the call. He is telling the team to prioritise Mick Schumacher. Apparently the track is drying enough for the intermediates, and Jackson is making the call to give priority to his teammate. That's a great call there from Jackson. He's going to sacrifice his own position to make sure Mick can get a chance at some points. Great team play there from Jackson, and this has certainly been a first 4 laps for Mick Schumacher to remember. He's not had the flying start to the season, but of course he is a second season wonder, Mick Schumacher, historically. So it'll be next year where he hopefully comes to life. And here we go, frenzy in the pits then. Bottas is coming in. Both Red Bulls are coming in, so this is going to ruin Perez's race. There goes the McLaren. There's Perez, and he will have to wait to be served. Hamilton has gone on, interestingly. Lewis Hamilton has gone on. So here's Mick Schumacher in the pits then. Jackson making the call to give his teammate the priority and ruin his own race in the process. He's very much willing to do that. So let's have a look here. So the Alfa Romeo gets out ahead of him, which is crucial. The Williams of Russell's going to beat him as well. Is he going to beat the Aston Martin though? Sebastian Vettel, he is! So HAAS did get Schumacher back out in front of Vettel. That's interesting. And the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. So even though Schumacher ultimately lost out to Raikkonen, which is a crucial position. Was that the Williams of George Russell? Because he's fallen back, so it wasn't the Williams, it was the Alpine, I think, Fernando Alonso, because he's around where signs have come out. So the TV is gone. I think the TV has to stop again because he's on the wets. Antonio Giovinazzi will have to stop, as will Lance Stroll, as will Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton has made the call to stay out a lap longer, it seems, which is interesting. The track does look still pretty wet, to be fair, and it is sparse, so a lot of drivers being brave, putting on the intermediates. Maybe Jackson is also sensing maybe an opportunity to stay on the wets for a lap or two more. I mean, to be fair, this part of the circuit right now that Lewis is on, it is looking relatively dry, and it's not kicking up a lot of spray, so maybe the intermediates are a good move, at least for the half of the circuit. Now, Rubens Barrichello won the German Grand Prix back in 2000 on a circuit like this, where the beginning of the circuit was wet, and the second half of the circuit was dry. So Barrichello stayed out and benefited from this. So Lewis is in the pits, and they're not changing the tyres. What is going on? Hamilton has stopped, and no one is moving. And what is going on? Calamities in the. Has Hamilton got a 10-second penalty? He didn't change the tyres. Hamilton didn't change the tyres. Did he have a 10-second stop-go penalty? That was relatively around 10 seconds. I can't think of what Lewis would have done to deserve a 10-second stop-go penalty. That looked like a vintage 10-second stop-go penalty for Lewis Hamilton. Well, Mercedes, they've either really messed up that one, or Hamilton had a penalty, but there's nothing on my screen to tell us that Hamilton has deserved a penalty in 4 laps of racing. That's astonishing. What happened there? Well, here's an interesting battle going on. Mick Schumacher now is in P11 and keeping with Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo. This is going to get really interesting now. It's going to get really interesting now because Hamilton is going to have to come in again because he didn't put the intermediates on. But the team refused to serve him. What went on there, I have no idea. I guess there was a 10-second stop-go penalty. But for what? Lewis Hamilton didn't seem to do anything. Did he jump the start? Did he jump the start maybe? And that's a bit harsh if he did jump the start. Normally you get a time penalty these days. Back in the 90s you got a 10-second stop-go penalty for jumping the start. But there's nothing on my computer to tell us that Hamilton deserved a penalty, so Mercedes just messed up. Were they going to put the inters on, and then it rained again, and Mercedes thought, no, we'll keep you going. But now that's just ruined Lewis's entire race. He can make it up. Obviously, he's in the Mercedes. He can make it up, but wow. Well, he's fallen to 9th, but he's going to have to pit again, meaning Mick Schumacher is going to be in the points here, lads, because Hamilton is going to have to pit again. He may be P9. He may not have lost too much, but he's going to have to go in again, surely. He's sticky with Raikkonen, to be fair. He doesn't look that much slower on the wet tyres. But he is coming in again. Hamilton is coming in again, so let's hope the pit crew serves him this time. And, well, that's his race ruined. And that is not what he needs in a battle for the championship in which he is second to Valtteri Bottas. Now, there's a Mick Schumacher train forming here, which includes his friend Sebastian Vettel in it. Which could be quite interesting. Hamilton has finally gone to the intermediates, so Mercedes then, calamities, as Hamilton goes on to the intermediates 1 lap later than he would have wanted. And, well, that's his race ruined. Absolute calamities at Mercedes. The only thing I can think of is that maybe Hamilton had a 10-second stop-go penalty, because he was stuck in the box for 10 seconds. But there's nothing on our channels or computers to tell us that he deserved a penalty. The only thing is I can think of is he jumped the start. But I don't think he did. You rarely ever see a jump start penalty these days. You ever just see a jump start. Period. So now with that, Valtteri Bottas now has to hold off Max Verstappen. And Max Verstappen is one of the best in these conditions of the current grid. And listen to this, lads. Mick Schumacher is running in 10th place and pretty much keeping Sebastian Vettel honest as Vettel gets a little out of shape there. Now, interesting. We know how good friends these two are. Michael Schumacher was the hero to Sebastian Vettel, and now Vettel is playing the role to Mick Schumacher. So is Vettel going to make life a little easier for Mick Schumacher? I mean, to be fair, Schumacher's holding his own in these conditions. He's not absolutely being dropped by Giovinazzi, to be fair. So Schumacher's earning this on his merit today, and HAAS will be praying that it keeps raining now, because if Schumacher can keep his position despite the conditions, then he might be on for a point here, and that would be crucial with Alfa Romeo getting a grand total now of, I think it'd be 7 points, with Raikkonen in 7th, 25 for a win, 18 for 2nd, 15 for 3rd, 12 for 4th, 10 for 5th, 8 for 6th, so that would be 7 or 6 for 7th. So that'd be that for Kimi Raikkonen, and then Antonio Giovinazzi getting an extra 2 points for 9th. So that would put HAAS pretty clear, Alfa Romeo pretty clear of HAAS in the constructors, but Schumacher can still earn the point that HAAS need to probably keep ahead of Williams if things don't go their way for the rest of the season in terms of points. This could be a crucial weekend for Mick Schumacher. He's definitely not had the highlights that Aiden Jackson has had, but Jackson's probably had a lot more to lose this season, so he probably has taken a few more risks, although we wouldn't really call them risks. They've been well calculated ones for Jackson this season. And here's a sight we're getting very used to seeing, actually. Valtteri Bottas leading the race from Max Verstappen, with Max with no idea, not no idea, but no answer to the pace of Bottas in this race. Lando Norris is running P3 again, so Norris and McLaren in particular are starting to come on leaps and bounds. But the man who's struggling is Daniel Ricciardo, down in 16th, making no inroads at all, despite the train that Schumacher and Vettel were forming in 10th and 11th place. And to be fair, Charles Leclerc's not making inroads on Vettel either. So the rain is equalising the power deficit that HAAS feel in the dry conditions, and that's what they'll be seriously hoping, that the rain continues, because it is favouring HAAS here as the power deficit is not so massive, and Vettel is certainly not making life hard for Mick, is he? Let's be honest, but I think we expected that. But let's see if Mick is still holding his own there. So the big loser is Pierre Gasly, down in last place with a front wing change. He needs a safety car roundabout now. Lewis Hamilton has lost out, as he is in P18 now, chasing Aiden Jackson. Now I wonder, oh, look how much pace Schumacher has there. The gap has grown between him and Vettel. That's interesting. So it seems that Schumacher's best part of the circuit is the first sector, because or at least the first couple of corners, because he gained a lot on Vettel there, unless he made a mistake. There's no DRS, so that obviously helps HAAS as well. But wow, what a load of interesting stories we have here in this Grand Prix. And could we see the first point for Mick Schumacher in Formula 1? Everyone at home is probably keeping their fingers crossed, because this kid, he has it rough just on a personal level, but he's dealt with it brilliantly, to be fair, and obviously keep fighting Michael as always. And no doubt with the release of the Schumacher documentary, it was very evident how much Mick has had to go through these last few years. But I'll tell you something for free, his surname has given him nothing. He has the criticism and he has the thoughts in people's minds, but his surname has given him absolutely nothing. Mick Schumacher has earned everything on his own merit. Am I biased? Maybe, but it is true. Schumacher has earned everything on his own merit. You do not become the Formula 3 European champion and the Formula 2 champion by your surname. It's not possible. So that real kind of, not stigma, but maybe small criticism or noting that people have, throw it out of the window, because your surname doesn't get you those, and your surname doesn't get you 10th place in the Belgian Grand Prix and holding a road against Sebastian Vettel, a 4-time world champion, and Charles Leclerc, a bona fide star for the future. Meanwhile, here is Lewis Hamilton chasing Aiden Jackson. And I didn't think we'd be saying that this season, apart from when Hamilton probably had to lap him a couple of times, but this is actually for position. So what's Aiden going to do? Is he going to make life easier for Mercedes? I don't think so. I don't see it in Aiden Jackson to make anything easy for anybody. But we'll have to wait and see. Still in 10th is Mick Schumacher. It wouldn't be enough for HAAS to hold on to 9th in the constructors' standings, but it would definitely help them keep ahead of Williams, because George Russell's probably the only one of that team who's scoring points. No offense to Nicholas Latifi, but Latifi has been struggling to even keep up with the HAAS boys on regular merit today, so over most of the course of the season. So it seems harsh, I know, but we're only on lap 10. It's amazing, isn't it? We're only on lap 10 already. Another bunch to go. Now Hamilton taking to the inside. Ooh, Jackson closing the door. I think that was fair from Jackson. He did come from some far way out, Lewis. I think maybe he backed out a little with that one. Ooh, that was very close. That could have been very costly. So not only Hamilton but for Jackson as well in more ways than one. Let's see if Hamilton's got the speed down the straight. Obviously with the power nullified because of the rain. But even in the rain, the Mercedes is one of the best cars on the grid. Lewis taking to the outside of the bus stop, and Jackson shutting the door. No quarter given to Lewis Hamilton. He's got every right to do that, of course. This is for position. Daniel Ricciardo is still in 16th, struggling to pass Esteban Ocon, which is quite unusual, considering that a couple of years ago, Daniel Ricciardo was riding a Renault Shod car, and now he can't pass a Renault Shod engine Alpine car. Very interesting there. But obviously Lando Norris staying in 3rd place obviously shows where the car should be. Daniel Ricciardo is out of position, to be fair. And wait, Jackson has caught Ricciardo. Jackson has caught Ricciardo. Now this could be interesting. Jackson is right on the tail of Ricciardo. The HAAS is a nippy car in the rain, lads. It really is. It really is, folks. It is a nippy car in the rain. There's no way that Jackson would normally be able to be with Ricciardo. And he looked round the outside, didn't he? He's probably gone too wide. That's going to probably aid Hamilton in the next corner or so. Hamilton is going to try and take to the inside, but the gap is a closing door. But Jackson having a sneaky little look there at Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren with a Mercedes engine. Well, Spa normally does throw up these unusual races, should we say. And this has been unusual by the shed load today. Now Hamilton still trying to find a way past the HAAS of Aiden Jackson. Jackson just not making it easy for Hamilton at all. Defending his position. All for P17. And the longer Hamilton stays in this position, the worse it's going to be for him. Is those dry tyres coming on the leaders there, as there is a pass. Was an AlphaTauri, I think. There was something going on. I wasn't sure. Hamilton trying to take to the outside. The leaders put dries on. In fact, I think they're all putting dries on. Track doesn't look dry enough to me. It gets priority then. So, is this for dry tyres? It pretty much is, you know, because the pit lane is dry. The pit lane is dry. In comes everyone. And I think I saw Jackson coming in behind. He did. And to be fair, they did a pretty stellar job. And Schumacher's gone into P9 now. Who's he beat there? He's beat Giovinazzi out of the pits, I think. Mick Schumacher's now P9, but now the rain has stopped. Oh no. Mick Schumacher has made his way up to P9, but the rain has stopped. And now HAAS are going to feel the pain. Oh no, and now DRS has been activated. And there'll be nothing Mick Schumacher can do against the Mercedes and Ferrari powered cars. And maybe even the AlphaTauri of Tsunoda. Oh no. Well, I didn't even know the rain was stopping. That was certainly a surprise to me. We were so interested in what Hamilton was doing against Aiden Jackson. And to be fair, I think Hamilton has finally cleared Aiden Jackson. So he probably passed him in the dry, because the HAAS is a very slow car in the dry. And well, your heart's going to go out to Mick Schumacher now, because he certainly arrived today. He certainly kept ahead of these two in much faster cars on merit in the rain, but now Schumacher's going to have no defence against these cars on super soft tyres. Everyone's on the super soft tyres, by the way, or what are known now as the soft tyres. It was the super soft tyres a few years ago. Well, here we go to the left-hand side of Blanchimont, heading up towards the bus stop chicane. The newly redesigned bus stop chicane from a few years ago. Vettel takes the inside. No, not quite. I thought he did. But now, La Source, or the start-finish straight, coming up to La Source. DRS activated for Sebastian Vettel. It's too short. Another very ineffective DRS zone in a lot of cases. Schumacher's trying his heart out here. I feel it's going to be in vain. Vettel takes to the inside, and there's nothing Mick can do. The corner's not even come up and he's already been passed. And well, his heart will go out to Mick Schumacher, that's for sure. Vettel has a job to do. And now Charles Leclerc, who's obviously part of the Ferrari family, in which Mick Schumacher is also involved in, being part of the Ferrari Driver Academy. He's not going to make it easy for Mick either. But to be honest, even if personal feelings were a thing, there's no real benefit for Vettel staying behind the HAAS, because the HAAS on a normal day is little more than a mobile chicane, sadly. It does have no upgrades on it, don't forget. They've done very well, HAAS, to be fair, considering they've had no upgrades. Especially in the hands of Jackson. Schumacher's not had it so highlight grabbing, but he often doesn't. Now Schumacher trying valiantly to hold on to the final championship point. Tries to force Leclerc round the long way round. And will he get better drive out of the bus stop? He will! Oh, he's not going down fighting then, Mick Schumacher. That was very well done by Mick Schumacher, showing some racecraft today. We know he has it. Schumacher, if you don't believe he has racecraft, then just look no further than last season. Those electric starts, that wonderful move on Yuki Tsunoda in Sochi. That wonderful move on Leclerc there. But again, because the straight is so much longer down the first zone, and again, Mick Schumacher is passed before even the corner arrives. And that is no points now for Mick Schumacher. He's out of the points. Jackson prioritised his teammate. It's all been in vain, somewhat. But look at this. We've got Esteban Ocon battling with... Daniel Ricciardo is still behind Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso, or is that George Russell? It's Russell. He's passing... Ocon is passing Russell now. And Ricciardo and Hamilton still have to try and make their way through these two. Ricciardo finally goes down the inside and takes it. Hamilton not so much. And that's Pierre Gasly with Aiden Jackson. How on earth did Gasly get back up to the tail of Jackson? Jackson's on the mediums. Interesting. So Jackson is going to the end of the race on those, I would suspect. So I see what Jackson's doing. He's taking the pain of people passing him, but he'll make those up later if the super soft runners have to pit. Keep calling the super softs today. That is Lewis Hamilton going down the inside of his possible future teammate George Russell. Nothing's been confirmed yet. The sun is out now. The sun is out now, folks. We've got Pierre Gasly starting up a move on Aiden Jackson before the bus stop even comes up, and Jackson goes wheel to wheel with Gasly, and it's going to continue through to La Source. Who's going to get DRS is going to be Gasly, but Jackson, very much like Schumacher on the previous lap, getting fantastic drive out of the bus stop. And that's position held for Aiden Jackson. Wonderful side-by-side action there with Pierre Gasly. credit to Gasly where it's due. He's certainly mostly caught into the back of the field. He's going to have no chance of any points from here. Jackson takes to the grass and he gives Gasly the room around the outside. And that is Aiden Jackson's race pretty much done. We'll have to see how much he makes being on the medium tyres. Well, meanwhile with the front, we haven't really talked about it a lot, but Max Verstappen has made no inroads on Valtteri Bottas whatsoever. In fact, I take that back, he's actually brought it to within a second now. But again, the might of the Mercedes car overall definitely has it over the Red Bull this season. Red Bull have improved, but not by enough, really. The Mercedes still, all-round package is supreme, especially in the reliability department, in which Red Bull have been woeful, to be honest. And Max Verstappen will have to take a plethora of grid penalties. Fears that he might have to take one at Zandvoort, which will be next, and that's not going to please the home contingent, because the Max Legion is going to hand out a sea of orange around the place. It's going to be vibes and atmosphere at Zandvoort unlike no other year ever at that circuit. You probably could say that Max Verstappen brought back the Dutch Grand Prix on his own, and to be fair, you'd probably have a case for it. Well, Schumacher is still in P12, lads. He's doing okay, you know. I'd like to see how Giovinazzi does. This will be good for power comparison for HAAS. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to amount to much. Giovinazzi taking to the inside. Schumacher trying to force it, but he just can't. He doesn't have the car to battle. He's certainly giving it a good go, though, Mick Schumacher. Now he's got Ricciardo and Hamilton bearing down on him, which is going to be an easy move for Daniel Ricciardo there down the inside. Oh my word. That HAAS car is just... It's... I hate to be harsh, but this is sort of embarrassing for HAAS at the moment. I think in the latter part of the season, I think we really do see how much where they are, and they're a long way off the top. They're a long way off even the midfield at the moment. Jackson's running last but one and being caught by the TV. It's... When HAAS is bad, it's embarrassingly bad for HAAS. We know we sound very harsh, but the car just isn't there. And I think that's why Mercedes really saw an opportunity to put Jackson in the car. All the saga Nikita Mazepin had sparked up. Schumacher trying to hold off Daniel Ricciardo best he can. I think Schumacher's coming into the pits now. So, in the soft tyres, he's burnt them out really. Tyre wear is a much bigger factor here with the corners. Now, Jackson's going to make a couple of positions. Oh, we got a bit out of shape. This is the bus stop. So, Jackson's going to make now 2 positions. And despite... What's funny is, despite being behind his teammate the whole race, now Jackson's back in front of Schumacher. And that's a surprise. So Schumacher really was not kind on his tyres. Probably in trying to battle with other cars around him today, because it's not much time he's had battling with others. But it probably destroyed his tyres in the process. So, Daniel Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton now out of the points. Ricciardo is, I think that's 3 seconds behind Tsunoda, who is 3 seconds behind Leclerc. So Ricciardo and Hamilton are now 6 seconds off a points playing position. And for Hamilton, it was no fault of his own, because I'm still baffled as to why everyone at Mercedes felt the need to just sit in the pits for around 10 seconds, not change your tyres, and just go out again. Because there's nothing on the race recap on my computer that says Hamilton got a 10-second stop-go penalty for anything, let alone jumping the start. I mean, yes, he gained the position from Verstappen, but I don't think he jumped the start. Bottas is pitted, by the way. Verstappen leads by 17 seconds. It's going to become redundant in a lap or so, because Max will most likely have to pin. A few more drivers coming to the pits now, so that's going to put Hamilton and Ricciardo back in the points, but they'll probably have to stop again because everyone's destroying the soft tyres. So Aiden Jackson made the right choice to resume the race on the medium tyres after the dry period. So the man who's benefiting from his strategy call, and a pretty good one, Aiden Jackson, now sitting in P14 ahead of Tsunoda. And ahead of Schumacher as well. Jackson might not have had the legs of oh no, that was Giovinazzi passing Schumacher. Not the other way around. Well, you certainly made the right call today, Aiden Jackson, in terms of the strategy. Very impressive P14 on the medium tyres. Probably going to the end of the race on those. So Max Verstappen currently leads from Valtteri Bottas, Lando Norris, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc 5th, followed by Sebastian Vettel, who's made his way to 6th. Charles Leclerc 7th. He was out of the points earlier, so he's made a good comeback as well. Alonso 8th, followed by Daniel Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton, but I think most of those drivers might have to stop again if all the soft tyres. So the soft tyres are taking a beating on this track, which is why Jackson ran the mediums. And now Verstappen is coming out of the pits, and he actually lost time to Bottas. So Bottas had a stunning out lap and has pretty much kept the lead and increased it. Just a few more laps to go. And Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton are coming into the pits then. Charles Leclerc and Vettel have also pitted. That puts Alonso back into 6th. And Alonso's had a stunning weekend. Now, it's Yuki Tsunoda going down the inside of Aiden Jackson at the bus stop on soft tyres. And Jackson just can't. Oh, he fights back. He fights back. Jackson fights back and takes back 14th position. How does he even make this car work? Is astounding. And oh, Tsunoda trying to go down the inside of the bus stop. That could be possible damage. That was a very late lunge from Tsunoda. I don't think Jackson would have seen that one coming at all. That could be damage to Yuki Tsunoda, and it would be all his fault, because to me that looked like almost a suicidal move, to be fair, by Tsunoda. A bit of an ambition ahead of adhesion, definitely. And now Tsunoda's going to have a trade for him, as he's probably going to have to damage his front wing. And this is Daniel Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton didn't have enough to deal with today. Now they're stuck behind that ailing AlphaTauri as Hamilton takes to the outside round Daniel Ricciardo. They're side by side while all that's going on, and he's passed him. And Schumacher, there's Schumacher now on the back of Daniel Ricciardo, and this will be interesting. Schumacher can get anywhere near Ricciardo. This could be good. Well, a bit of ambition ahead of adhesion for Yuki Tsunoda, and he may have lost a bit of his front wing in the process. And that was not a move he needed to be doing with about 3 laps to go. And AlphaTauri, well, they've had a bit of a dismal weekend, to be fair. And Gasly starting at the back, and Tsunoda won't be getting any points either. Now Daniel Ricciardo is that's Schumacher on Ricciardo. There's a whole race going on here. It's Hamilton. Where is anybody at the moment? There's Hamilton going round Giovinazzi then. Is it Giovinazzi? It is Giovinazzi. And there's just all sorts of moving going on. Tsunoda's in the pits. Probably to change his front wing. Hamilton's passed. Giovinazzi's repassed Hamilton somehow. Oh no, that's well, only for a moment. Hamilton's now won out the battle, but he is 3 seconds behind Jackson. So Jackson's 11th now. So somehow Aiden Jackson, despite being behind a bunch of these cars all race long, has ended up in front of them. And Giovinazzi's still battling with Hamilton by the looks of it. Giovinazzi and Hamilton are still battling, but we're Yuki Tsunoda for some reason. AlphaTauri 17th and 20th at this very moment. And Yuki Tsunoda is looking rather pedestrian down that straight. I wonder if he's developing engine problems, because he looked pretty slow. And that certainly is the case. It looks like Yuki Tsunoda is going to retire from this race then. The first AlphaTauri retirement, engine related, for the season. And more problems at Honda. But that's the first AlphaTauri retirement of the season. So their engines have been a lot more reliable than Red Bulls have. But, well, look at this. Aiden Jackson, he's not going to get it near the points, but he's certainly trying to put what he has to good use. I want to see Mick Schumacher up against George Russell here, because this could be an interesting battle. He's battling with Gasly. He's trying to make up for lost time at the start of the race when he lost his front wing. So both AlphaTauris have been in the wars. Hamilton's lost a bit of ground to Ricciardo, strangely enough. Well, as far as the Constructors' Championship is concerned, Kimi Raikkonen is going to get vital points for Alfa Romeo as Ricciardo makes very light work of Aiden Jackson, sadly. The HAAS is literally a boat in the dry, and it probably has the same effect as the boat and a boat in on dry land. And Leclerc's flying. He's just past Vettel. Now, let's see. 4 seconds behind Raikkonen. Less than a lap to go. He's not going to make it. Jackson is going to get passed by Hamilton, and he doesn't make that too difficult. I don't think anyone can really blame Jackson for that, really. So Hamilton is going to score no points then because of a calamity in the pit stop, in the first pit stop, and Bottas is going to, I think, amount a 40-point lead in the Drivers' Championship now then. It's all going wrong for Lewis Hamilton this season, isn't it? On the eve of becoming the most winningest world champion in Formula 1, with 8 titles to his name, beating the great Michael Schumacher. But there is a man who could stop him, and it's his own teammate, Valtteri Bottas, who, to be fair to Bottas, no one gave any hope of him doing. But let's be fair, he's earned it this season. It's going to be his 6th or 7th win of the season. Here at Spa, Bottas once again has dominated proceedings. Amazing. He won in Imola. He won in Spain. He won in Monaco. He won in Hungary. And now he's going to win here as well. Valtteri Bottas takes a commanding lead in the Drivers' Championship. He takes the checkered flag to win the Belgian Grand Prix in dominating fashion ahead of Max Verstappen. 1:45.616 is the fastest lap on the final lap by Valtteri Bottas. He will take the extra point, and here is a scrap for 15th place, and Mick Schumacher is hanging on to it. And well, what could this man have achieved today if it had just kept raining? He definitely showed some skill and prowess in the rain today, Mick Schumacher. And, well, it's just such a shame that the HAAS is little more than a mobile chicane in normal conditions. They're nowhere near the midfield, let alone anywhere near the front, sadly. So Lando Norris gets another podium as well. Fernando Alonso P6, which is impressive. Alfa Romeo now get ahead of HAAS. And, well, what could have been vital weekend for Alfa Romeo. Vintage weekend for Valtteri Bottas. He wins again. And Schumacher gave his teammate a wave to say thank you for the priority, I'm sure. It didn't amount to anything, but great team play there from Aiden Jackson, recognising the opportunity, but sadly the car wasn't up to it. At the front, Valtteri Bottas takes another win for the season, a 26 points with the fastest lap, and dare we say it, this title could be going to Valtteri Bottas in a year where much speculation has been made about George Russell being Lewis Hamilton's teammate for next season. Mercedes might just have to hold the phone on that discussion, because right now Valtteri Bottas is absolutely dominating it at the moment. Alonso finishes where he started in P6, which is impressive to be fair. And well, Daniel Ricciardo, he had a real problem passing people today. Didn't expect that. He obviously had a hit from Gasly at the start of the race, so Gasly was down in P17 as a result. Esteban Ocon really out of sync and out of sorts there in P18. That's lower than usual. Jackson, Schumacher, well, what could have been for them if it had just kept raining? The HAAS is good in the rain, but it's woeful in the dry. A 46, is that 46 ahead of Hamilton now? Bottas is? Yes, it is. And Max Verstappen finally gets up to third, but that could be redundant now because he doesn't even have the legs of the Mercedes in normal racing conditions, let alone any retirements that, factoring the retirements that Max has had. So now Kimi Raikkonen gets 4 points for Alfa Romeo, and that's going to be 5 points for them in the constructors. They're going to be 2 clear of HAAS, and Williams have yet to score. So that for HAAS's hope now is that Williams don't score, but it's just a real reality check of where HAAS are. But at the front, Valtteri Bottas absolutely dominating from beginning to end in sort of vintage Bottas fashion, to be fair, this season, along with Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Well, it's going to be enemy territory next for Mercedes, the home of Max Verstappen at Zandvoort. We'll see you then for the first Dutch Grand Prix since the 1970s. Hope you enjoyed it today, and we'll see you next time.